Welcome, everyone. Today we have Krista Matusky. She is owner, founder of Buckle Up Off-Road, Buckle Up Buttercup. She's a YouTube personality, content creator. And I know I say this every time that you can't miss this episode, but Krista's story will absolutely if this doesn't inspire you, you are uninspirable. You've got to watch today's show. The Nothing Else Mattress show starts now. When we started out, it was just about providing for our families while being in the driver's seat of our careers. I started in the mattress industry in 1999, and when I left the corporate world and Joe and I opened the Big Mattress Outlet in 2012, we could never have dreamed how rewarding business ownership would be for us.
My only regret is that we didn't do this sooner. I was terrified to make that jump, to leave the comfort of the corporate environment. As the old saying goes, I can promise you, the parachute's never gonna open if you first don't jump.
We've built a proven business model that's unique in the industry. It's profitable year after year, even through fluctuating markets and economies. We want to work with like-minded entrepreneurs who, like us, don't mind a little hard work, but want to own something that goes beyond just providing for our families financially. It offers exponential growth and profit opportunity, not to mention just a great culture and a really fun industry.
If you think you might be a fit, we'd love to talk to you.
Everybody, I'm here today with Krista Matusky. Krista has got all kinds of businesses going on. She's the owner of Buckle Up Off-Road, Buckle Up Buttercup. She's a successful YouTube personality, content creator. Krista, thank you so much for saying yes and being here today. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited about this.
It's awesome. So if you've watched any of the shows so far, you know we love a good origin story, and you've got a great one. We like to dive right in. Tell me about like your background and how you even got to the point. We'll talk about your businesses in a minute, but I want to talk about how you got from being where you were before, because you weren't doing anything at all related to automotive and off-roading. Tell us about it.
Not at all. So I was a stay-at-home mom for 14 years, I guess. I mean, I've always kind of been an entrepreneur at heart, and I did a little things on the side, but nothing that I would consider a main source of income or anything like that. So I tell people, if I can do it, anybody can do it, because I was out of the workforce for so long. And now just to look where I'm at now, sometimes I can't even believe it.
Wow. That's so cool. So, I mean, what was the catalyst though? You're a stay-at-home mom. You said you had a little bit of entrepreneurial spirit, but what happened, if you don't mind telling us, that made you just say, hey, I need a business?
So I was a stay-at-home mom, and I was also a homeschooling mom. So I'm with my kids 24 hours a day. That was like my calling. That's what I love to do. My kids were starting to get older, and I almost started freaking out, like, oh my goodness, there's going to come a point when they don't need me anymore. They're going to be out of the house. They're going to grow up. And then what am I going to be? I'm going to just be here and just exist. So of course I'm like, well, what can I do? And then eventually, this is probably the not so fun part, I ended up going through a divorce as well, being in that same situation. So at that moment, it was like do or die. It's like, well, you just can't not do anything anymore. Like, you are the provider for these 3 children. What are you going to do? So I was looking for jobs. I was on LinkedIn and all of those other job searching websites, just trying to find anything really, something where I can work from home, because I was still, going to be homeschooling, still, be home with my kids. And I couldn't tell you how many applications I put in, and I never got one call back. I mean, who's going to call me back? I've been out of the workforce forever. I mean, I have some experience with event planning and, things like that, but who's going to want to hire a mom that's no work experience within this decade? And at that time, I started a YouTube channel about, I would say, a year prior to that. And it was based like on camping stuff. So we did this cross-country trip, never camped a day in my life. And I'm like, I'm going to do this crazy thing. I'm going to buy a camper, and us as a family are going to go across the country, and we're going to document it. And it ended up being a pretty successful trip. And I ended up getting monetized after that. I had 1,000 subscribers. People were interested. Did you have a
So
question?
when you documented it though, was that your goal was to monetize it, or were you just doing some fun thing that you thought would be cool?
Okay. I am probably the worst critic when it comes to like YouTube monetization, TikToks, all that. I was the type of person that I was like, you can never make a living doing that kind of stuff. I mean, I had my cousin, he was into that kind of stuff. I'm like, you're never going to be able to make a living doing that. So it was more of like a fun thing. Like, okay, if I could get monetized, I probably can't make a living, but it would be something. And it was during like the peak of COVID. What else did I have to do? There wasn't really much, to do when I started the YouTube channel. So it was more of like a hobby. It wasn't really, I would say, a goal at the time to get monetized. It just happened so quickly. I think it was like only 4 months and I got monetized. And then once that happened, I'm like, oh, that didn't take too long. And shortly after that, I got my Bronco. And that's where pretty much all of this kind of started to take root. I received a Bronco. I think it was like a second or third build week when they just started to build them. And I got it delivered at the end of July. So I feel like I was the only one in this country that had a Bronco, because when I would drive the streets, like
You almost
like,
were, I think.
yeah,
There were like
I'm
4
like,
people that had one.
right. And people, I'm like, this isn't like a Lamborghini or, some awesome cool car. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make some videos about it. And I recorded the whole thing of me picking up the Bronco with my kids, and people watched it. Like, I got so many subscribers, so many views. I'm like, okay, I'm onto something. And then I recorded another video. I think it was like 2 days later, a soft top review, because everyone was wondering, oh, is the soft top on the Bronco loud? I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to do that. And I feel like
Let's do a
that
video about
video
it.
put me on the map. And then everyone just kept coming to me for questions about the Bronco. Nobody had their hands on one. Nobody has seen one. So I was the
Wow,
girl
that's so cool.
that people came to. In fact, the dealership where I bought the Bronco, they'd never seen one. That was the first time that their dealership, they didn't have a mannequin, nothing. Like, that was the first time. So the Broncos kind of what started this whole journey that I'm on now. And it's been, I would say, about 2.5 years, or let's see here, it's 24 now. So I got my Bronco July of 2021. So
This has all
within,
happened really fast, really.
yes, very, very fast. So I started, dedicating a lot of time to that. And it started going really well. I ended up getting asked to go to SEMA, which is like a huge industry show. You have to be in the industry to get into it. And just a lot of doors started opening up. But I did put in the time and I put in the effort, and I continued to make videos even if I didn't feel like it. Even when people would say the most disgusting, rude things about you online, like I kept doing it. I'm like, I'm still doing this. I have fun doing this. So then fast forward a little bit of time, I worked with a handful of companies. They would either pay me for videos, or I would get a kickback if somebody, would purchase product. And, I was doing this for a while, and I would see that the success that came from it. I could track certain things that would direct people to a website, and there was so much data and analytics. I'm like, wow, I made this company an astronomical amount of money off this video. Like, I had the stats to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It got to the point where I was just talking to some friends, and, I'm freaking out because I still at this point don't have like a full-time job. This was my full-time job, is, the stuff that I was doing. I was self-employed. And they're like, you should start your own brand. And I'm like, how in the world would I ever do that? Like, that's really cool. Maybe someday.
I wouldn't even
And
know where to start. Yeah.
yeah, no idea. But it planted that seed that, yeah, someday I want to have my own brand. I did not think much about it. I didn't put much thought into it until months down the road. I got in contact with another person that wanted to partner up in his company, and a lot of doors really started opening. And to make a very long story short, Buckle Up Off-Road was then born. And I have learned so much with all of this. And if I could tell anybody, is I was scared to death the entire time. And I did some crazy things. Jim and I, my husband, were talking just the other night. We met each other when we were both going through like the biggest changes of our life. I mean, I was technically homeless. I sold my house. I moved into my grandmother's barely three bedroom mobile home, until I can get, my feet back on the ground, just there's a lot of rebuilding. If anyone that's been through a divorce, it's not an easy thing, especially when you have 3 children. The only thing I had to my name was my Bronco, and I had to pay a pretty price for that in the divorce.
Wow.
So I'm like, gosh darn it, I'm taking care of this thing. And this is just going to have to work. There's no other option. But any money that I had, I invested in myself or in my children in some way. And I had to sacrifice a lot of things. And there were so many tear-filled nights of, am I crazy? What am I doing? Like, how is this going to go? It's either going to work or it's not going to work. I'm meeting the right people. I was even on Ford's radar. Like, they asked me to apply for this one position in Ford that wasn't like with Ford corporate, but more of like an influencer for them. And, it ended up being a great fit for what I wanted to do, because now looking back, it would have held me back from doing a lot of the things that I do now. So it's just hindsight, you don't know at the time that maybe that's a blessing that door was closed, because you don't know what that next door is going to bring.
Wow.
Couple bad business deals, not gonna lie, there were a couple bad business deals made, but I learned from them very much so. And now here I am doing the YouTube thing, doing, all the social media thing. And instead of making other companies per se millions and millions of dollars off promoting their product for free or for a small amount of money to do a video, now I'm pushing people to my website, and offering customer service that I feel like people want, how I would want to be treated. And I'm also living that life. So I'm not just this huge corporate monster that is, shoving Bronco parts down your throat. I use it. I'm a Bronco person. I go off-roading. I take it to the beach. I have kids. I go to the mall. Like, I do it all in the Bronco. That's my only car that I own. So I just felt like it was so relatable. And, trying to work with other companies on feedback of, what people really want, quality on stuff, it wasn't to my satisfaction. So I'm like, the only way I can make it the way that I want is if I just do it myself. And here I am, almost a year into the Buckle Up Off-Road thing itself, and has been extremely successful. It's mind-blowing. It's really mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing.
The YouTube thing is still going great. It's just there's so many moving pieces to even explain how everything fell into place. But if anyone's watching and they're thinking about doing, an entrepreneur journey and starting their business, expect to be scared, terrified. You're probably going to cry a lot. You're going to be stressed. But in the end, if you have the ambition and you have the dedication and drive, and honestly, you just need to believe in yourself. That's because you're going to have people that aren't going to believe in you. People that maybe you would consider very close and, oh, they got my back, and they don't. But that just pushes you to be better and to do better. And don't do it because somebody tells you not to do it. That's really, really all I can say. Believe in yourself.
I tell you, I'm sat here and I like keep my pen and I'm like scribbling notes over here because there's so much value in everything you have to say. And because I've got to know you and Jim in the last year or so, there's other parts of the story that I'm aware of just as your friend that I realize you're leaving out. And you said to make a long story short, but we're okay with long stories. So I want to go back and address fill in some blanks just because, wow. I mean, if ever there's a story for someone taking nothing, no offense, but turning nothing into something
Mm-hmm.
with pure just determination and grit,
Yes.
then that story is you. And because it was a do or die moment, you said. But I wanted just to clarify, so those who don't know your full story. So Buckle Up Buttercup, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's the YouTube personality, the channel, right? That's kind of what was like the springboard to everything else.
Yes. So
So
Buckle Up
just kind of talk about that for a second, like where the name came from and just what that was.
So Buckle Up Buttercup was the YouTube channel, the name of the channel it wasn't after I was going through my separation, I changed the channel name because it was Pickens Party of Five. Well, we're not a Pickens Party of Five anymore.
Okay.
And, this was my thing. So I'm going to change the name. So that got changed, I think, early 2022 or something like that. But in a lot of my videos, before I would go off road or do something crazy, I'd always tell my kids, buckle up, Buttercup, just always. And then we ended
Okay.
up naming the Bronco Buttercup because we're like, oh, we should name the Bronco something. Everyone names their
Everybody
Bronco
names, yeah.
Retrobot or, whatever.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
what should we name it? And the kids just all shouted out Buttercup because that's what you say all the time. I'm like, okay, so that makes sense. And so we named Buttercup. So then when we went through the name change, I'm like, Buckle Up Buttercup. That only seems natural that
Sure.
should be the new name. So I have the Bronco that's Buttercup, and then my original OG Buttercups, my three little kids, which aren't so little anymore.
Yeah.
And it's something that I say at the end of pretty much every video, Buckle Up Buttercup, because it could be buckle up for that crazy ride you're getting ready to go on.
So we'll show some pictures. We'll overlay pictures of the OG Buttercup Bronco.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's been a change in Buttercup, right? I like isn't there like a Buttercup 2.0 now?
Yes. So as with every story, there's a downfall and then there's a high point. And, I sold my home. And like I said, I only had that Bronco to my name. It was me and my three kids living in a mobile home. I don't want to say it was a terrible life, but it was hard for a few months.
Challenging.
It was an adjustment. Later that year in December, I ended up buying, I built a house, the house I'm in right now. I built my house. And then 3 months later, I bought a brand new Bronco because I'm like, I need a fresh start. I'm going to go a different angle. And I'm like, I need a brand new Bronco because I'm going to sell my brand on it. And anything I do, I'm going to promote it on my channel. And it was this whole like business plan idea that I had. It's not anything I really had written down. It was just like this idea of all these things make sense. It'll snowball into a bigger thing. And sure enough, I mean, it just all worked out. It all worked out. Like I really, it's so hard to explain all the different little miracles that happen for this to take place. But, now I'm remarried to an amazing human being. And I'm doing what I love. My kids are happy and healthy. So it's like in a 2-year time frame, you can go from being so low, lonely, not have anybody to turn around and live your dream. So I feel like 2 years time frame, that's a blink of an eye. But
can we be vulnerable for a second? And if we get through this and you don't want the content, we'll scrub it.
Okay.
But one of my earliest memories of you was from the Super Celebration that I didn't get to go to. Still haven't got to go to one because there's always something work related on that weekend. But I had known you through Joe, my husband, and he was telling me a little bit about your story. And he asked me what I thought as a female about him reaching out to you to say something along the lines of, do you remember this?
Yep.
Yeah.
It was one of those, this is kind of another example. There are certain people that get put into your life so unexpectedly to even just say one thing that can change the course of your path. I didn't have a lot of people.
You get me there too. I got to get the Kleenex. I
I
didn't
didn't
know that was going to
know.
happen 19 minutes in. Like I thought I'd give it a
Well,
minute
like,
anyway.
I was trying to leave that part out, not because it didn't mean a lot, just because I knew it was going to be waterworks. But, I met Joe at Super Celebration. That's when I got this little trophy here for the Bronco. I walked up to him. I was actually looking at your Bronco, not his Bronco. And I'm like,
Thank
man,
you.
this is like one of the coolest Broncos I've ever seen. It's all retro, modded out, and just, it was done so tastefully. And I walked up, I'm like, is this your Bronco? He's like, yeah. I said, do you mind if I just make like a quick little video? And, would you mind saying anything? Would you want to be in the video? And he's like, oh yeah, I'd love it. So I did like a little
Mr.
clip.
Never camera shy at all.
I know, little did I know. And, took some pictures, shared it on social media, and it ended up being on my full length video about Supercell. And the next couple of days, we passed by each other. And that trip, I had my oldest daughter with me. She wanted to kind of have like a mom and daughter trip. So it was just us. And there were like tiny little events that happened there because I was still going through the divorce at that time, that it just made certain nights difficult for me and my daughter. And I just remember Joe, I don't even exactly remember what he said, but he just said that, he's been through a divorce and, things are going to really suck, but he promises they're going to get better. And I was just like, okay, I don't believe you, but okay.
You
And
needed to hear that.
yeah. And he, told me your guys' story and how you met. And I'm like, that's like the perfect little love story. And I just love it. And talked about, your company and just all of the things that you guys do together, and you actually really like each other. And I just think that's so
I know.
awesome.
It's amazing that, we live together, we run a business together, and we like each other. It's
Yeah, that's
crazy.
the thing. Like, I feel like a lot of people in marriages aren't happy. And he just really gave me that push of, it's gonna be okay. Stick in there. So
Yes, but it's so true. We believe it with all our hearts. And, I think that's worth talking about for a second, even though it's not really directly related to entrepreneurship. We're human beings. And a lot of times your business requires you to put on a face that's happy. We can't always, in your case, as a content creator, your videos are certainly not going to go viral and get the attention if you're on there, with a frown on your face. You've got to be excited about what you're doing. But I know, because I know you, and you're telling your story, there had to have been times that you were doing those videos when inside, that's the face you were putting on is not how you were feeling inside.
100%.
But yet you push through and you're doing it anyway.
Mm-hmm. And
So I
some of the
think,
criticism too that I would get,
yeah,
questions that people would ask, and I know that's natural, but I chose to remain very private about all of that, mainly for my kids' sake. I just feel like anything that happened personal wise doesn't need to be kind of plastered on Bronco YouTube videos. I just feel like
sure.
it's not something that's beneficial. Like, I get when you watch, TV shows and stuff, you feel like that person and you deserve to know, but there are just things that are better left not talked about.
Well,
Sort of
but
thing.
first and foremost, you're a mom.
Mm-hmm.
And then secondly, you're a wife. And then beyond that is the Bronco and the content
Mm-hmm.
creation and everything. And people forget those boundaries when you become a public figure. And I've seen you shed some tears over horrible things that people would say and do online.
Mm-hmm.
And what amazes me, again, just staying off topic for a second, but again, we're humans. We all are aware that there are those people on the internet. And even those people would say, oh gosh, yeah, people lose their filter. They say anything because they're behind a screen. But then those same people will say things like, how does one not realize, and it's a rhetorical question, but how does one not realize that the person they're directing comments to online is a real human being with a story and with feelings, and that you're affecting?
Right.
It blows my mind.
And I used to be a super sensitive person. I'm telling you, the whole YouTube thing, I didn't know I was going to be able to do it in general, because I would take everything to heart. Now it's not that bad. It doesn't bother me. It only bothers me if my kids come across something. And then I get
Okay.
real mad because I'm like,
Of course.
not at them, but
Oh,
they
yeah.
get
No, of
mad
course.
for me. And they're like, do they even know blah, blah? Like, they get fired up. And I'm like, it's not even worth getting fired up about because they're not even thinking about what they said. So don't let it affect your life. So it's been a good teaching lesson with my kids. They, believe it or not, my two oldest have YouTube channels. My older daughter has more subscribers than I do. So they're kind
Really?
of, yeah, she's got almost 40,000. It's crazy. And she's
Oh my
15 years
gosh.
old.
You're learning from the
But
best.
oh, she's better than me. But like, I I don't like social media for young kids, so I really watch it, like what they're getting into. But it's been a learning curve for everyone because we're
Sure.
not growing up in the same age as when we were growing up. We didn't have to worry about
Yeah. And
social
there's no
media.
handbook. There's no manual. Like you're figuring
Yeah. I
this
mean,
out as you
now
go.
you've got like text messaging, all this crazy stuff going on with younger children, and people just have no filter and they say whatever they want. They think that's okay. But, my
Yeah.
kids know how it affects them on both sides. So it's been a good learning lesson to try to raise good, well-rounded little people, to grow into these adults that aren't going to do those type of things because they see what it does on the other side.
True. How did you is there anything that you did to kind of help be less sensitive to the criticism of stupid people online?
Yes. Um, if I'm completely honest, Jim helps me the most because that's my husband, for those of you that don't know. Um, he makes me feel very valued and loved. So it doesn't matter what anybody else says about me because I know how he feels and what he says about me and how my kids feel and what they say to me and
Mm,
about me. I'm not putting my value in some stranger's comments. They hold no value at all to me.
that's good
That's
advice.
why now it's like people say, I'm telling you the craziest stuff. And now I'm almost to the point where I laugh, um, or half the time I don't even like finish reading it. So when I say they're starting to not affect me, it's really starting to not affect me. It's been a hard battle, though. I will tell you that it is
Mm.
not an easy thing to do.
That's good. That's really good advice, though. Just remembering strangers' comments. I wrote that down. Strangers' comments hold no value because the
Yeah, and
people that you value, you know how they feel.
well, and the other thing too, a hater is still a fan if they're still watching you, no matter if they're, speaking
True.
out about you. In fact, the haters, I tell them, you're making me money. You're engaging in my videos. You're commenting on my posts. You're promoting my information
So
by
keep it
commenting,
going.
saying your hate stuff. You can go on your social media and talk about me. You know what? Now somebody knows who I am. So thank you for getting my name out there.
Yep.
So I really just turn it around where it makes them, I mean, I don't say anything to them, but like in my
Right, right.
mind,
But in your
I think
mind,
it's positive.
it's a good point, though.
I can't believe I'm a big enough deal that somebody's talking about me. It's like, I'm just me. I'm just
Well,
here
and
like,
to be fair, we are talking about a very, very small minority. I mean, you
yeah,
have tens of thousands of fans who truly love
yeah,
you, and so many people who have gotten to know you and know what a wonderful person you are. So it's almost a shame that we even talk about that small handful
yeah.
of people who are, rotten apples. But because I know it's affected you, I wanted to kind of talk about it because I know we all deal with in any type of success you have, somebody's going to hate. And like you said earlier, sometimes people that you think are on your side or your biggest fans, and then you start having a little success and another
Well,
side
with
comes
that
out.
too, you're going to have criticism. Some criticism is constructive and you can take as feedback for certain things. But what I would want to tell people that are interested in starting their own path of, opening a business or working for yourself, becoming your own freedom, is a lot of people get jealous. They're not willing to put in the work that you did, but they want the same results. But they don't want to do that work. So they're going to be mean and rude and, cold or whatever to you. And having a business, I know, sometimes friendships suffer from that because
Unfortunately.
if somebody calls in or you're just always busy. I know me. I put in hours and hours and days and months straight where I'm working. I'm making time for my kids and stuff, but like friends, what? I love my friends, but I'm sorry you're on the back burner because I have my eye on the prize right now.
Yeah.
And some people don't take that very easily. They're not understanding. Now, I do have a great group of friends that, said, "You're doing awesome. I just want to call and say that I can't wait to see you 3 years from now when things are settled," But
Whenever you get time for me.
yeah,
But
exactly.
a
And,
lot of people they don't see the work. Yeah, they don't want to put in the work, but a lot of times it's because they actually don't know the work. A lot of people just aren't cut out for
they're
being an
not.
entrepreneur or for having a successful business, but sometimes it's because they don't have realistic expectations of the work that's involved. Like they think,
Yes.
you have this great business idea, and so you launch the idea, and then it's just going to be successful on its own merit, and that's just never how it works.
Right. And another thing I noticed is a lot of the people that were really supportive and encouraging were people that have decided to take that same path too. So
Yeah.
even though I may say that I lost in touch with some friends, I ended up making stronger friendships with other friends because they have put in this work. They know the sacrifices and what it takes, to do something like this. So I feel like surrounding yourself with like-minded people is
Mm.
only going to set you up for success. But if it's kind of like that thing, I don't know, like back when we were kids, or like if you are, what is it, an orange or something, and you put yourself with a group of moldy oranges, you're going to get moldy, or you want to put your orange with the more ripe, or I don't know, whatever. You get what I'm saying.
I do.
But
Yeah,
whoever you
actually.
hang around with, that's what's going to rub off on you. So
Yeah.
cut out the negative, cut out all the negative, and
Yeah. A
just
conversation with somebody else recently, and they were saying, if you surround yourself, and I'm using the quote because this is what was used in conversation. So that's the only reason why I'm referring. But they said, surround yourself with millionaires, and suddenly being a millionaire is not a weird thing. Like that's just
Mhm.
commonplace. And so
Mhm.
you surround yourself with people who are what you want to be. And, they say that you're a sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Mhm.
And so there's so much truth there where, if you want to be a spiritual person, you want to be a good mom, you want to be a good wife, you want to be, a successful business person, whatever it is you want to be, you surround yourself with people who are those things,
Yeah,
because that's just how it happens.
I
It wears
agree.
off.
I agree. And I'll add kind of another quote to that. When I was younger, I was very close to my grandpa. And he had a thing where, if I had want something, he would make me go ask the person for it. But here I am, just a shy child. I was actually extremely shy. I wouldn't talk. I was like, hide me. And now doing what I do, it's kind of funny that, I
Uh-huh.
used to be a super shy kid. But he's like, if you don't ask, the answers already know. What do you have to lose? And that is 110% the mentality I took on to do this. I'm
Yep. The answer is
I'm
always
a
no to the
nobody.
unasked question.
Yeah, like I'm a nobody. I'm contacting these huge multi-million dollar corporations of, hey, this is what I do. Are you interested in this? Just all this stuff. I even contacted people at Ford, like the VPs or CEOs of Ford on LinkedIn to ask questions about something. And you know what? They actually answered me. But what common person would maybe think of to do something like that? They would be too nervous or intimidated. Um, but
Yeah,
that has opened doors for me just starting a conversation with somebody. Not
exactly.
all of them say yes, a lot of them say no. But if they ever decide to say yes, they're going to remember you. So it's just, you got to go
So
on
one of my other, you're right. And I was thinking of a conversation with one of my other guests, Dr. Lemke, and she's a psychologist, and said she offers a sleep course, and one of her first offers that not offers, but points of contact that she reached out, she got an email back where they said, unfortunately, I can't remember, it was a rejection letter, however it was worded. And it crushed her because it was her very first attempt. And she was so scared nervous about sending the letter in the first place, and then to get the no back. But she printed it out and hung it on her wall. And she said that's the only thing that she has kept because that was to let her know, first of all, that there are going to be some failures and that those are okay. Like that, it's not really even a failure. It's just, okay, that was a no, but I may have to go through a bunch of no's to get a yes. And that makes it a success because I went through the process.
Mm-hmm.
And you went through the process because, you mentioned that your friends were suggesting, well, why don't you come up with a brand? And so you came up with, Buckle Up Off-Road. I know I'm very well aware of what it is because being a fellow Bronco enthusiast, but tell the world what Buckle Up Off-Road is and what you do.
So, Buckle Up Off-Road is your one-stop shop if you have a 6th generation Bronco. So, I not only have like my own branded items of like Buckle Up Off-Road brand items, but I offer really the hottest and best brands you can think of that are made for the Bronco. So, my whole idea was I want to be able to build this website where you can go to and you can find everything at one time, because it would irritate me just as a consumer in general. Oh, I like this, but it's at this store, but to get free shipping you have to spend $99. In this store it's $129, but the items, $25. Well, I'm super frugal and I'm like, oh boy, okay, well, if I offer a website where you can get everything for your Bronco, you don't have to worry about the shipping things. You know where you're going. It's one place. You don't have to worry about multiple shipments. Just it's more convenience than anything. And then the fact that I'm the enthusiast, like I'm you or me, like we both like Broncos. We go off road. We do, different things. And then I personally test some of these other brands, and then I say if I like them or I don't like them, this is why. And then, come up with my own products of ideas or things like that. So this passion turned into a livelihood now. And if you do what you love, you will never work a day in your life. And that's a good thing, because I would be working hours and hours and days and months at a time. But the good thing is I enjoy it. And in the end, it will be worth it.
Well, you are the epitome of working in your business, because I mean, if people will go and look at your videos on YouTube or check out the website, it's you putting the parts on the car, you and Jim, your husband, working together, doing stuff, but you are not afraid to turn a wrench. You've been in our garage at our house shooting videos over margaritas.
Yep.
Of putting what were we putting on? I forgot what we were doing
body lift on it.
Now we're putting a body lift on one of our store manager's Broncos. We just have a bunch of Broncos around here. Evidently, we all love it. But no, you're not afraid to turn the wrenches and get up under there and do what it takes. But that shows in your videos. And what's great about that is that you, the face of the company, are actually an expert then about these products. You're not just being the pretty face that's selling the stuff that somebody else has told you about. Like you actually have real world experiences and opinions of them.
Yeah. And something to add to that is I really wanted to do this for multiple reasons. Number one, I liked it. I had fun. I liked doing the Bronco stuff. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to show my kids that if you want to do something, just put your mind to it. You can do it. But another reason is to inspire other people, maybe not like my immediate family. I've met many women. I've never done anything on my vehicle ever in my entire life. I am scared to death. But you know what? I installed an intercooler on my Bronco. And she goes, I cannot believe that I did this. And she just felt like $1 million. She's like, if I would not have seen you do it, I would have never done it. You're a female. Because I mean, there is a what do you call it? Like
a stigma.
That, but also men are stronger than women. So there are things that it is just difficult for us to do. And I just find creative ways to do it. Maybe it's not the safest or whatever. I don't know. But I don't claim to be like a professional tech or mechanic. I'm not, but I'm learning as I go, and I'm not afraid to try, because how do you become the pro at something? That professional at something had to start somewhere. So
exactly.
There's no other way. You have to.
So why can't you be the professional then?
Exactly. Well, there you go. Yeah. Yeah. So it's more of like an inspiration and showing, moms that, cars just aren't for boys. You can do things. You can do stuff with your kids, go off road. It's like a big happy family adventure thing to do with your kids. So there was so many moving parts to all of it. I should have been writing things down. I know we've been planning on doing this, but one day I plan to like write a book on just the
Totally
entire
should.
journey, because even just how my husband and I met, he was doing Bronco stuff, and everything just kind of fell into place. But at the time, it didn't feel like it was falling into place. It almost felt like, what's happening? Everything's falling apart.
Gosh, I wish we could just cover everything in the hour. I try to keep these things to an hour, but there is so much more. So going back to where you were just applying for a job because you're realizing that you needed to do something. You've been a stay-at-home mom, and now you're going to have a little more responsibility for the household, or sole responsibility for the household. So you're applying, you're not getting any calls back. Do you ever have any regrets about going off on your own versus what if you'd gotten one of those calls back and gotten a good job? Do you ever think to which path?
No, because so I do want to add, without getting too much into the story, I was approached by a company and they did hire me, and that's how I met my husband. So I worked there for a short amount of time, but I look at that as a blessing because I met, my soulmate. And then, he packs up and now he's living here. So I guess I kind of left that out. I did work for a company for a few months before I completely transitioned to on my own. But I mean, it was like a couple months. It wasn't long.
Yeah. And I was aware of that part of the story, but I was actually thinking more of the,
Like
before
the
you just started.
job.
Yeah. Just a job in general, when you're just like, hey, I got to do something. And so you're on LinkedIn looking for, applying for stuff or whatever.
I I don't regret it at all. Now, at the time, when
It
you're
was
living
scary.
this situation, it's so scary, and you're just like, what am I doing? I can't find something. But that was just the sign of, well, you're not supposed to be doing any of this. That's
Yep.
not for you. And it was worth the stress. It was worth all of the doubt and everything to play out. Just at that time, it's not easy. It's not easy when you're going through it.
Does the fear ever stop?
Not really.
I
No,
see. I
it
don't think
doesn't.
so either. And I ask a lot of guests that question, and we all kind of feel the same way. It's like, I mean, you get afraid of different things, but the fear itself never really goes away. I think that's just inherent to caring about what you do.
I would agree. I think it has to do with you caring about what you're doing, how you're doing it, and if you're doing a good job.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think fear makes you grow and makes you be a better person. Now, I think there's two types of fears. There's, fear that is motivating and a fear that's debilitating. I don't want to be overcome with fear where I'm, depressed and things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
that certain fears drive you to do better. And if I don't know, it's a scary thing. It's always a scary thing. And
It
you
always
always
is.
want to evolve and get better and do better at what you're doing.
And there's
And
that, paralysis by analysis too, where, if you sit and think about something too long and try to calculate all the different possible courses so that you make the right one. And in
did
the
I make
meantime,
the
you're not
right
making any
decision?
progress at all.
Yep, yep. Like that's the line you battle. Like, how much time do I spend
Mm-hmm.
dwelling on certain things, and or do I not spend much time on that and just take the chance?
So I have a thought on that. And I think this seems to be a common thread in a lot of our conversations with entrepreneurs, is that, yeah, there's an element of attention that big decisions need to get just because you don't want to make stupid decisions. But you also kind of have a measure of faith in yourself and your ability to work through something,
Mm-hmm.
your ability to overcome if it ends up not having been the perfect decision, that you can learn from it and overcome, or that you don't have to have all the hurdles figured out. I mean, there's so much self-confidence that has to come into
Yes.
play just to know that, hey, you know what, this may not be perfect. This may not be the best decision, but I don't have the benefit of hindsight. So you know what, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm smart enough. We'll figure it out.
I would 100% agree. You have to believe in yourself. If you start doubting yourself, it's not going to work. At least in my case. Like
I think that's so true. Because that plays off on other people too, because you inevitably, as you grow, you've got a team of people that will work either with you or for you or in some capacity. And, they need to see the confidence. Like, how are they going to be confident in being a part of what you're growing if they don't see the confidence in you?
Right.
Sometimes you got to go home and give yourself that pep talk too.
Oh yeah.
Like, all right,
I
I got
feel
this.
like when things are finally kind of unfolding, like, where you can almost take that deep breath, that exhale, like, okay, we're here, and we're here. We made it. Like, you're not at the top, but you're at that moment where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, it's happening. It's working. Almost like catch my breath. Now, then it's the next hurdle. But
Yeah. You don't sit there long.
not at all. But you have to believe in yourself 100% of the time. And if you don't, I hope you find somebody that will believe in you for the times that you don't believe in yourself, because they will get you through those days of, I'm a failure. Am I even doing, I did that. Like, you have those days where it's just like, can I do anything right? Like, can anything go right? Anything I touch is just not going the way I want, and blah, blah, blah. Then that's when you find your person, and, they give you that pep talk, and they're like, stop talking stupid. You're awesome. Just go eat some chocolate and go lay down.
I'm writing that down. Stop talking stupid. You're awesome. That's a good line though, because I don't know if everybody can relate, but I can relate so much to that. Is like, there are days where I feel like such a failure. Our feelings are not always based on reality. It's not about reality in the moment. It's about, sometimes you just feel like you're spinning wheels. You feel like you're not accomplishing what you wanted to accomplish. You had a long list of tasks for the day and you didn't get any of them done, or something's going wrong.
You just feel like a failure to yourself because you set unrealistic expectations or whatever that may be, and you fell short, and that's normal. Like, I feel like we are our own worst critic. Like, as bad as haters or trolls, whatever, on the internet suck, like, you could be your own
we are even worse
troll.
You're right.
Like, I could be my own worst troll and be the hardest on me, but why? Like, what does that accomplish? Like,
that is true. But it's good you've got people in your life though that, like you say, that are there to tell you, quit talking stupid, you're awesome.
Yeah.
How has because this has all happened pretty quickly, in the last few years, you've drastically changed circumstances. So how has just entrepreneurship in general changed your life really for the better?
I mean, in every way possible, it has. I mean, every way. Personally, like, I feel better about myself. I have, my own independence and freedom, to do what I love and to build an empire. I want to build an empire for my family. I want my children that when they're older, they want to build an empire because they saw mom do it. If she can do it, I can do it. She told me I can do it. So I just want to be that example to them. So personally, like, they see the struggles. I mean, they're with me. I'm still homeschooling them. I'm a full-time mom, while I'm juggling all these other hats. And I'm still a pretty cool mom, an awesome mom. They tell me all the time. So I feel like the entrepreneurship has you had to make maybe some sacrifices personally in your your family or friendship life with people, but after you're on the path, you have different freedoms that maybe you wouldn't have, whether that's financially, whether that's your schedule. Maybe some moms or dads, they want to be able to take their kids to school and pick them up. Well, if you have a regular 9 to 5 job, most jobs aren't going to allow you to do that unless you take your time. Where
Yep.
If you're working for yourself, you're usually working like 12 hours a day anyway. So it's okay. I can take an hour out to go get them and bring them back, or drop them off at soccer practice or things like that. So personally, it's better. Professionally, I mean, I've grown a lot professionally. I've, just companies in general, you build that rapport. So you network and you meet people that have the same interest as well, that maybe you can collaborate down the road. But overall, it has made everything for the better, but more talking points that I can't really think of anything else, but it's just better. But you had to make the sacrifices to get there.
You said, I couldn't help but giggle a second ago. You said working 12 hours, it's okay to take an hour out to go get the kids from school. One of my good friends says that, I highly recommend entrepreneurship. You only work about half the time. Just pick any 12 hours of the day that you want. And that's the only 12 hours you have to work.
I will say that's probably the most difficult thing for me. And it's not time management. Like I'm good at doing tasks. It's not like I'm squirrel, constantly this, moving to everything. But it's like there's so much to do and only so many hours in the day. It's like, well, if I want to ever try to get sort of caught up, you got to work a lot of hours. And I've been trying to do better at that because we need to live life as well. As much as you want your company to thrive, it's going to thrive more if you take that personal time for yourself and, to invest in yourself and to clock out. And usually that clears your mind and you're going to be better at what you do.
Yeah. You got to schedule that personal time in, the self-care too. And I'm a part of a mastermind group, and I got some really valuable coaching to that end. And I loved the conversation was about, all of us have unique abilities that we bring to the organization. And those abilities are the things that cause our organization to be what it is. Like nobody else can do that job. That is your, Krista, unique ability, is to be the face that's on the camera, to be the personality. There are things that you contribute that nobody else can do. Mm-hmm. But sometimes our time gets spent, like the actual hours of the day are spent on other things, like the payroll and the invoicing and the writing the checks and the answering the phone calls and the scheduling this and the scheduling, the tedious stuff that are what are making you successful, but have to be done nonetheless.
Yes.
And so learning how to delegate those things to someone in a different position, rather than feeling like we have to do everything. The exercises of that in the mastermind were really valuable for me. Because it'll, I feel like in our place right now where we are, it has allowed me to actually focus on growing the organization instead of being tied up on this tedious stuff that was taking all my time.
It sounds easy to delegate things, but you're also giving over control over something that you've been in control over. It's not an easy task. Sometimes it's easier said than done, I think, for certain things,
Oh my, it totally is. It totally is.
I'm going to trust this other person to do this correctly, or, to even do it at all.
You know what the coolest thing is? Because there absolutely is a fear associated with delegating like some responsibilities and things that you need done to somebody else. But the coolest thing is when you have someone in the organization or, whatever your position is, you delegate something to someone else and they do a great job, maybe even better than what I would have done. That is so rewarding, because that's like the affirmation of, okay, that it was okay. The whole place didn't burn down. I gave somebody else something else to do and they did great at it. They knocked it out of the park. Does that happen every single time? No. But now I can focus on, okay, to whom do I delegate what? Like, what's that person's strength? What can they be doing that they're going to excel at? And then the key becomes not the delegation itself, but delegating to the right people, which is kind of a whole other game, but it gets fun when you see somebody do something better than you could have done. That's happened to me a few times lately on our team, that I feel like, oh, we're there. I got team members that can do things better than I can.
And then you build this whole team of people that are happy to do their job, and, it frees you to be able to do your job, not, wearing all these hats to make sure the company's moving in the right direction. Yeah,
for sure. Working on the business and not in the business.
There you go.
Krista, you have got such huge things ahead of you. You and Jim working together, and I'm so thankful that we got to know you, and to call you a friend first and foremost, but to get to know your story. It's truly inspiring. I hope that everybody, first of all, go and like Krista's like and subscribe.
Yeah.
The Buckle Up Buttercup YouTube channel, but check out the website too. I've been looking at it. It's so professionally done, and you're really living what you're.
I'm
Yeah,
not
you.
a website designer by any means. I'll tell you that.
Well, neither am I. And so, from a consumer side looking in, it looks great to me. But
you.
I love what you're doing, and you're gonna grow this into great things. And I can't wait to keep tabs on the progress and hopefully have you back on one day talking about how much it's grown.
And same with you. The fact that you're doing this whole podcast now, I thought was really awesome. The second I saw you release your first video, I was like, oh yeah, that's so cool. I love it. You know, it's not easy to do, just like anything else that we just talked about. Getting in front of a camera and talking to people, it's not easy, but you guys are killing it. You're awesome. You and Joe are seriously the best. I can't wait to go up to Georgia again and see you guys.
That's right. We got to do that Georgia Traverse. That's still on our list.
Yes.
We'll do that this
fall.
It's going to happen this fall. We are going to do it. We need to calendar it.
Yep, we do.
We'll stay in the cabin.
That's awesome.
Krista, thank you so much again. Tell Jim I said hello. So glad you were a part of the show. I'm sure if anybody has questions, you're an open book. You've got a contact me form on your website that you'd probably be happy to share stories of your success or product questions. If anybody out there is a Bronco enthusiast and needs parts for your Bronco, don't go buy me anywhere else. Thanks again, Krista. See you next time.
Thanks, Kelly. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
You too.